Most people lose before they even play, not because they lack skill, but because they lack presence. They walk into a room already defeated, shrinking themselves so no one notices their flaws. But in this video, you'll learn how to walk in like you own the ground, speak like every word matters, and command respect before you've even said a thing. Confidence is rarely about truth. It is almost never about whether you are actually prepared, skilled, or intelligent. In the theater of human interaction, what matters is the image you cast and the story others tell themselves about you. People do not have direct access to your inner reality. They cannot feel your heartbeat. They cannot measure the storms of doubt in your head. They cannot read the exact arithmetic of your competence. They only see what you allow them to see. And if you understand this, you understand the first law of dangerous confidence: perception outweighs reality. Consider the world as a stage. Every room you walk into is a scene already in progress. The other actors are scanning for cues. Who is worth noticing? Who is worth listening to? Who is worth following? They are not looking for absolute truth. They are looking for signals. If you appear unsure, they will believe you are unworthy. If you appear certain, they will accept your certainty as fact. The mind seeks shortcuts, and confidence is one of the most powerful shortcuts of all. This means you can win the perception game before your first move. Enter a room with deliberate presence, your shoulders squared not in tension, but in quiet control, your gaze neither darting nor timid, but anchored as if you have already chosen your place in the hierarchy. Every small action is a broadcast. The pace of your step, the way you scan the room, the subtle delay before you speak. These are not random details, they are instruments of perception. The untrained imagine that confidence is a feeling that wells up from within and then overflows into action. The trained know it is an action first, which, maintained, forges the feeling afterward. To harness perception, you must first sever the link between emotion and expression. The average person betrays themselves because they allow the internal to dictate the external. Nervousness becomes fidgeting, doubt becomes averted eyes, uncertainty becomes hesitant speech. This is a gift to your competitors, for it shows them where you are weak. If you are to command perception, you must reverse this process. Let your external presentation dictate the internal. Speak as if you have the right to be heard, and in time, your mind will fall in line with your voice. Hold your body in stillness, and your pulse will slow to match. Perception is also shaped by contrast. You need not be flawless to be seen as confident. You only need to project more certainty than those around you. The human eye is drawn to the one who seems most in control, not necessarily the most correct. In a meeting where voices clash and grow uncertain, the one who remains calm and firm appears to rise above the noise. In a conversation full of fillers and nervous laughter, the one who pauses deliberately before speaking seems to carry greater weight. The others, sensing this imbalance, unconsciously align themselves to your energy. This is not magic, it is psychology at its most primal. Your enemies in this game are overexposure and overexplanation. When you explain too much, you appear to seek permission. When you show too much, you invite scrutiny. Dangerous confidence thrives on selective revelation. You show only what strengthens the image. You hide what would weaken it. This is why the best actors in life's theater are not the ones who speak endlessly about their achievements, but the ones who let others discover them indirectly. Mystery is magnetic. Certainty without full disclosure is intoxicating. Another truth: perception is malleable over time, but it is hardest to change in the first seconds of contact. People decide what kind of person you are almost instantly, and then bend all future evidence to fit that first impression. If their first image of you is one of authority and calm power, they will interpret your mistakes as anomalies rather than proof of incompetence. If their first image of you is uncertain and apologetic, even your victories will seem like accidents. Therefore, treat the beginning of every encounter as the decisive battle, not the casual warm-up. To sharpen this weapon, you must study the small habits of those who command rooms without effort. Notice how they rarely rush. Notice how they take up space without appearing aggressive. Notice how they speak with a certainty that makes others hesitate to challenge them. Then adapt these elements into your own style, not as an imitation, but as a strategic calibration of how you will be perceived. Your aim is not to become someone else, but to strip away everything that dilutes your presence and to reinforce everything that amplifies it. Understand also that perception is cumulative. The image you project in one setting will follow you into the next. If people hear of you before they meet you, the story they are told will be half the battle won or lost. This is why you must guard your reputation as fiercely as your possessions. Every interaction you have is either reinforcing the myth of your authority or eroding it. Do not waste even small moments by appearing sloppy, desperate, or unsure. You are always on stage, even in private, for private moments often become public stories. This control over perception does not mean you must be loud, theatrical, or flamboyant. In fact, dangerous confidence often prefers quiet dominance. A whisper can command more attention than a shout if it forces others to lean in. A still gaze can be more intimidating than a flurry of gestures if it suggests that you are unmoved by chaos. This is the paradox. By doing less, you often appear to be more. Those who are frantic appear to be struggling to hold their place. Those who are still appear to have already secured it. Perception is power because it governs the way others treat you, the opportunities you are offered, and the level of resistance you face. A confident image disarms skeptics before they speak, silences challengers before they act, and turns allies into devoted supporters without your having to beg for their loyalty. You will find that the more you master perception, the less you need to convince others with argument or evidence. They will simply accept your position as natural, inevitable, and unassailable. Every environment you step into is already charged with an invisible structure. There are those who set the rhythm, and there are those who are pulled along by it. If you wish to hold dangerous confidence, you cannot afford to be a passenger in this flow. You must seize the role of conductor, not by brute force or obvious dominance, but through subtle orchestration of attention, pace, and atmosphere. To control the stage is not to shout louder than everyone else. It is to become the gravitational center that pulls every orbit toward you. From the moment you enter, people are unconsciously deciding where their eyes will settle and whose voice will carry weight. They are reading body language, tone, and positioning. If you do not claim control in these early moments, someone else will, and you will be relegated to reacting instead of directing. Control begins before words are spoken. It is in where you position yourself in the room, in the way you stand, in the unhurried pace of your movement. The person who appears to dictate the tempo instantly gains the upper hand, because humans instinctively defer to the one who seems in command of time. Control of the stage requires mastery of focus. The more scattered you appear, the more power leaks away. The room will follow your eyes. If you direct them sharply and deliberately, you set boundaries for where attention is allowed to go. When you speak, you anchor the space by holding your gaze steady, never darting nervously as though seeking approval. Your tone must match the role you claim: steady, unflinching, never rising in pitch to betray agitation. Even in silence, you communicate that you are in no rush and that others must wait on you. This is how you flip the invisible balance. They respond to your rhythm, not the other way around. Those who truly control a stage understand the psychological weight of presence. It is not about filling every second with sound. It is about owning every second, whether you are speaking or silent. A pause, when used with intent, forces others to lean forward, to anticipate, to feel that they are in your frame. This anticipation is power. It gives your next word more weight than if it were lost in a stream of constant chatter. By modulating the rhythm, a slow sentence here, an abrupt word there, you keep the room in a state of alertness. Predictability is the enemy. Controlled unpredictability keeps you in the driver's seat. Positioning is another lever in this control. Physical placement in a space is not random. Stand or sit where you have a clear line of sight to the room. If you need to speak, take a position that subtly elevates you above the rest. Even a few inches of height changes the psychological equation. When seated, angle your body so that you naturally become the focal point, not squeezed into the margins like an afterthought. People instinctively look to the figure who occupies the most commanding position, whether they realize it or not. But controlling the stage is not just about how others see you. It is about how you manage them. If someone attempts to dominate, you do not confront them directly unless necessary. Instead, you redirect attention back to you through pacing and redirection. You acknowledge interruptions briefly, then resume your thread as if nothing has disturbed your command. In doing so, you train the room to treat disruptions as inconsequential and your voice as the natural center of gravity. Voice control is a critical weapon here. The confident do not raise their voice to compete. They lower it slightly and slow their pace, forcing others to adjust. Loudness can be challenged, but calm authority is harder to dislodge. A voice that never strains tells the audience, whether one person or 100, that you are never on the defensive. You speak because you choose to, not because you must. This aura makes people wait for your contribution, because they sense it will be deliberate rather than desperate. In controlling the stage, you also control the emotional climate. If you exude calm certainty, the room will unconsciously mirror it. If you radiate tension, the atmosphere will grow sharp and hostile. The one who shapes the emotional tone wields more influence than the one who has the most facts or the loudest words. This is why emotional discipline is a non-negotiable skill. Your internal storms must never spill into the room unless you intend them to. When you do choose to project intensity, it should feel calculated and rare, so that it carries the weight of a deliberate strike rather than an uncontrolled outburst. A crucial yet overlooked part of controlling the stage is knowing when to give others the illusion of control. At times, you allow someone else to speak at length, but you remain the one who subtly frames the conversation. You decide when to nod, when to interject, when to pull focus back to yourself. The room may think it is shifting away from you, but in truth, you are allowing space so that your next move lands with greater impact. This patience is often mistaken for passivity by the untrained eye, but it is in fact the strategic patience of someone who knows they can reclaim the center at will. Finally, understand that the stage is not confined to a literal platform or meeting room. Every social setting, every negotiation, every casual gathering has its stage. To control it, you must learn to read the currents quickly, to identify the existing focal point and either claim it or bend it toward yourself. This is not about arrogance, it is about quiet dominance. The kind that others may not even notice consciously, but which they feel as an unshakable undercurrent guiding the entire interaction. In any room filled with voices, the one who speaks least is often the one who commands the most attention. Words are abundant, but silence is rare, and anything rare is perceived as valuable. To master silence is not to avoid speaking, but to treat speech as a currency, spent only when it buys you influence or leverage. Most people feel an almost physical discomfort in pauses. They rush to fill them, spilling words that reveal too much or weaken their position. The one who can hold silence without flinching controls not only their own image, but the rhythm of the entire interaction. Silence is the armor that conceals uncertainty. When you do not immediately respond, others cannot read your mind. They begin to project their own assumptions onto your stillness. Some will imagine you are carefully considering. Others will think you are unimpressed. Some may even fear you are silently judging them. The truth may be simpler, but perception matters more than truth. Silence turns you into a mirror in which others see themselves, and in doing so, it gives you power over the narrative forming in their minds. When you pause before answering a question, you create the impression that your words are worth weighing. Quick, reactive answers may show eagerness, but they also suggest a lack of depth. A measured pause makes the other party feel that your response is deliberate, that you are not driven by impulse but by calculation. This pause can be only a few seconds, yet in the mind of the listener, it stretches and builds anticipation. People instinctively value that which they have to wait for, and silence manufactures that wait effortlessly. In negotiations, silence is often the deadliest weapon. When an offer is made, The average person feels compelled to respond immediately, either to agree or to counter. But the one who holds silence after hearing an offer forces the other side into an uncomfortable space. They will often break first, speaking again to justify their position, sweetening the deal, or revealing information they should have kept hidden. The more you resist the urge to speak, the more pressure you place on them to fill the void. And in filling it, they surrender leverage. Silence also sharpens the impact of your words when you do choose to speak. If you speak constantly, your voice becomes part of the noise, easy to ignore. But if you withhold, the sudden sound of your voice cuts through the air like a blade. This is why a single, concise statement delivered after a long silence can dominate a discussion more than paragraphs of explanation. By speaking less, you ensure that when you do speak, others are already leaning forward to hear you. Controlling silence requires discipline over your instincts. Humans are social animals conditioned to avoid awkwardness, and prolonged pauses often feel like cracks in the social fabric. The average person seeks to repair these cracks instantly, but the confident learn to widen them. By letting the pause linger just slightly beyond comfort, you place yourself in control of the pace. The longer you can hold silence without showing discomfort, the more authority you radiate. It signals that you are not desperate for validation or attention. You grant your words as a privilege, not a plea. Silence is not only an outward display, it is an internal tool. It grants you space to observe, to listen more closely than those who are busy composing their next sentence. In silence, you notice the tightening of a jaw, the flicker of doubt in someone's eyes, the slight shift in tone that betrays insecurity. These details are invisible to those who are speaking too much, but they become obvious to the silent observer. And once you see them, you can use them. Silence feeds perception, and perception feeds control. In conflicts, silence can dismantle an opponent's aggression. When someone raises their voice, expecting you to match it, your quietness becomes a psychological disruption. Their energy hits a wall that refuses to echo back, and in that stillness, they begin to falter. Anger thrives on reaction, silence starves it. Likewise, in debates, refusing to jump at every challenge makes you appear unshaken, forcing the other side to overextend themselves in an attempt to provoke you. They will often say more than they intended, exposing their own weaknesses in the process. However, silence without intent is just passivity. Mastering silence means deciding when and how to deploy it so that it works in your favor. It can be a shield, deflecting unwanted questions by not acknowledging them immediately. It can be a trap, luring someone into over-explaining. It can be a stage, setting up your next sentence so that it lands with amplified force. The key is that the silence must always feel deliberate, never accidental. You must appear as though you are choosing to withhold, not struggling to find words. The danger for most is that silence leaves space for the mind to wander, not just the minds of others, but your own. If you let insecurity creep into that space, your body language will betray you. Averted eyes, fidgeting, shifting weight, all these signal that the silence is controlling you rather than the other way around. To truly master it, you must be as still internally as you are externally. Your posture should remain steady, your gaze calm, your expression unreadable. This is the silence of someone who could speak at any moment, but chooses not to. And that choice is what gives it weight. Those who can wield silence with precision find that they rarely need to demand attention. It is given to them naturally. The room learns that when they speak, it is worth listening, and when they fall silent, it is worth wondering why. In both cases, the focus remains on them, and that is the essence of control. The foundation of dangerous confidence is not charm, intelligence, or even skill. It is the unshakable conviction that you are capable, worthy, and destined to prevail. Without this inner fortress, every word and gesture you project will eventually crack under pressure. The world is filled with people who will doubt you, challenge you, and attempt to define your limits. If you accept even a fraction of their judgment as truth, you have surrendered the first and most critical battle. Self-belief must be absolute, and it must be ruthless, immune to the slow erosion of outside opinion. Ruthless self belief does not mean blind arrogance. It is not built on the fantasy that you are flawless or incapable of failure. It is built on the decision that no matter the setback, you will endure and adapt. This is not optimism, it is an unbending refusal to entertain the thought of defeat as a permanent state. Even when you misstep, even when you are unprepared, even when the odds are weighted against you, you do not allow the story in your head to change. You tell yourself, again and again, that you will find a way, and you speak and act in accordance with that story until it becomes reality. The average person ties their self-belief to external validation. They feel strong when others approve of them and weak when approval fades. This dependency makes them fragile. The moment someone questions their worth, they hesitate. The moment someone more confident enters the room, they shrink. Ruthless self-belief is severing that dependency. You no longer measure yourself by the applause or silence of others. You define yourself on your own terms and protect that definition as if your life depends on it. Because in the realm of influence and power, it does. This belief must be cultivated in the private arena before it can be projected in public. In private, you reinforce it through your habits, your self-talk, and your standards. You do not tolerate mediocrity in your own actions because doing so would give your mind evidence against you. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you resist the easy path in favor of the difficult one, you are building a library of proof that you can trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, you stop seeking permission from others to take action. Ruthless self-belief is also a shield against manipulation. The insecure are easily steered because they look to others for their sense of direction. A subtle insult can throw them off course. A slight withdrawal of approval can make them abandon their own plans to regain favor. But when your belief in yourself is unyielding, no such tactics can sway you. The manipulator finds no purchase because there is no crack to wedge open. You may listen to advice, you may weigh opinions, but the final judgment always belongs to you. Criticism is inevitable, and without ruthless self-belief, it becomes poison. With it, criticism becomes information. You hear it, evaluate it, and decide whether it serves your growth. If it does, you use it. If it doesn't, you discard it without hesitation. The difference lies in whether you allow criticism to alter your self-image. Those who lack self-belief are pierced by every negative word. Those who possess it are armored, not because they believe they are beyond reproach, but because they understand that no one else has the authority to define their worth. There is a dangerous edge to this kind of confidence because it unnerves people. Most are accustomed to dealing with individuals who can be made to doubt themselves. When they encounter someone who will not bend to disapproval or intimidation, they often react with either fascination or hostility. Both reactions confirm your power. Fascination means they want to draw closer, perhaps to understand your certainty. Hostility means they recognize you as a threat to their own control. Either way, you have shifted the balance of the interaction in your favor simply by refusing to doubt yourself. To maintain ruthless self-belief, you must guard your mental environment as fiercely as you guard your physical one. You do not surround yourself with voices that constantly undermine your resolve. You limit your exposure to those who disguise envy as advice, whose words are designed to make you small. This is not weakness. It is strategy. A fortress is not built in an open field where every passerby can wander in. It is built with walls, gates, and selective access. In the same way, your belief in yourself must be defended against unnecessary exposure to those who seek to weaken it. This kind of belief also frees you from the need to prove yourself in every encounter. The insecure feel compelled to constantly advertise their accomplishments, to argue their worth at every opportunity. In doing so, they appear desperate, and desperation erodes authority. The one who truly believes in themselves does not rush to convince anyone. They act, they achieve, and they let the results speak. Silence in the face of doubt becomes its own declaration. Not a void, but a statement that your confidence does not require their agreement. Even in moments of failure, ruthless self-belief reframes the event. You do not think, "I am not good enough." You think, "This is part of the process." You do not say, "I can't do this." You say, "I haven't done it yet." Every failure becomes temporary. Every setback becomes a lesson, and every victory becomes another stone in the foundation of your certainty. This mindset does not come naturally to most, but it can be trained. Each time you catch yourself drifting into self-doubt, you pull yourself back with deliberate, forceful conviction. You replace hesitation with action, because action reinforces belief, and belief fuels more action in return. Over time, this becomes less an effort and more a state of being. You walk into any room with the quiet knowledge that you belong there, not because someone else invited you, but because you decided it. You speak as though your voice has weight, because you know it does. You carry yourself without the twitch of someone awaiting judgment, because you have already judged yourself worthy and passed the verdict without appeal. In the realm of influence, perception often outweighs truth, and nothing shapes perception more than the impression that you cannot be rattled. To appear unshakable is to stand as a fixed point in a moving world, a presence that remains steady while others lose their balance. People instinctively look to such figures for direction, comfort, or leadership, not because they have been proven infallible, but because stability in uncertain times is magnetic. The unshakable do not necessarily feel calm inside, but they project calm so convincingly that others believe it, and in believing it, they grant them authority. Appearing unshakable begins with mastering your responses, both verbal and physical. The smallest movements, the flicker of an eye, the tightening of a jaw, the shift of weight, are signals that betray what is happening internally. The average person's body reveals stress before their words do. The one who wishes to project steadiness must train themselves to break this link. When under pressure, their breathing remains slow, their gestures controlled, their posture consistent. This is not denial of emotion but discipline over its display. Even if the mind is calculating rapidly, the exterior must be composed, for the exterior is what the world judges first. In conversations or confrontations, an unshakable presence refrains from being rushed. They do not allow the tempo to be dictated by urgency or agitation from others. When questions are hurled at them, they take their time to respond. This pacing sends a clear message. Nothing here is beyond their control, and they will act only when they decide. Those who rush to answer appear defensive. Those who pause appear deliberate. This deliberation becomes a shield, creating the impression that every move has been measured before it is made. When challenged publicly, the unshakable avoid visible offense. Outrage and defensiveness suggest vulnerability, implying that the blow has landed. Instead, they respond with either calm assertion or controlled indifference, as though the attack barely merits acknowledgement. This disarms aggressors, who thrive on visible reaction, and it reassures onlookers, who interpret composure as strength. The lack of emotional volatility becomes its own weapon, for it denies others the satisfaction of shaking your foundation. Part of appearing unshakable is mastering the art of tone. A steady voice is more than sound. It is a signal to the nervous systems of everyone listening. A voice that neither wavers nor strains suggests confidence, even when the content of the message is complex or unwelcome. People subconsciously mirror emotional states, and when they sense steadiness in your tone, they begin to feel steadier themselves. In this way, your composure becomes contagious, and you become the anchor in the room. An unshakable presence also understands the power of minimal reaction. In chaotic situations, most people flinch, gasp, or make sudden movements that betray anxiety. The one who stands still while others move frantically draws the eye as the exception. This stillness is not laziness but control, a signal that they are processing information without surrendering to panic. The paradox is that by doing less in moments of chaos, you often appear to be doing more because it suggests you have the ability to choose inaction where others cannot. To sustain this image, you must develop internal habits that feed external stability. This means preparing yourself mentally for unpredictability. The unshakable expect challenges, betrayals, and disruptions, and thus they are not surprised when they arrive. This expectation allows them to absorb shocks without visible disturbance. While others freeze or lash out when caught off guard, they pivot smoothly, as though they had anticipated the turn. Preparation, both mental and strategic, is the hidden mechanism behind the facade of composure. Appearing unshakable is not about never showing emotion. It is about controlling when and how it is shown. If you reveal excitement, it must appear intentional and timed for effect. If you display displeasure, it should be measured and calculated to shift behavior, not as an uncontrolled outburst. The danger of uncontrolled emotion is that it signals to others that your state can be altered by outside forces, making you easier to manipulate. The power of controlled emotion is that it becomes a tool, used only when it strengthens your position. This steadiness extends to how you handle uncertainty. In moments where information is incomplete, many rush to declare an opinion or make a hasty decision, afraid that hesitation will be perceived as weakness. But the unshakable know that patience, when deliberate, is read as confidence. They are willing to withhold judgment until they have the clarity they need, and they do so without appearing unsure. This balance, not rushing, yet not stalling aimlessly, creates the impression that they are operating on a longer timeline than everyone else, a timeline that they control. Another element is the refusal to be baited. In debates, arguments, or tense negotiations, opponents often attempt to provoke emotional reactions to gain the upper hand. They may insult subtly, question your competence, or challenge your authority in front of others. The unshakable do not rise to these provocations. They let them hang in the air without visible impact. This forces the provocateur into a position of overextending themselves, escalating until their own composure cracks, making them appear unstable while you remain steady. Even in moments of failure, appearing unshakable preserves authority. The average person apologizes profusely, offers excuses, or visibly shrinks after mistakes. The unshakable acknowledge the situation without dramatics, address it with clarity, and continue forward without signaling that their confidence has been dented. By doing so, they control the narrative. It is not a personal defeat, merely a challenge to be resolved. Observers interpret this as resilience, and resilience is a cornerstone of lasting influence. To cultivate this appearance, one must practice in low-stakes environments before being tested in high-stakes ones. Everyday situations, delays, minor confrontations, unexpected changes, become opportunities to rehearse composure. Over time, this rehearsal becomes instinct, and instinct becomes identity. When the real tests arrive, the behavior feels natural, and the image of unshakable presence emerges without conscious effort. Ultimately, to appear unshakable is to make others feel that you are the calm in the storm, the one who does not waver when the ground shifts beneath everyone else. Whether or not this calm is fully real is irrelevant. What matters is that it is convincing, for convincing others of your stability ensures that they grant you the space, trust, and deference reserved only for those who seem beyond the reach of ordinary disruption. Confidence is not a gift bestowed. It is a weapon forged in the fires of action, strategy, and unwavering self-belief. You now hold the tools to command respect, influence outcomes, and carve your own destiny. But this is only the beginning. The world belongs to those bold enough to seize it, and every lesson ahead will sharpen your mind and harden your resolve. If you hunger for more strategies, more secrets to rise above the ordinary, then join me for the next chapter. Subscribe now, and let us continue building a power within you that no one can ever take away.